Hello everybody and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to show you how I build my Socket.io backend service from scratch, and also at the end give a little demo of the server itself. Okay, and I'm going to be using TypeScript for this project, just so you are aware. Alright, so as you can see, I'm inside VS Code here. I'm in a fresh project. So to get started, I can open the terminal here and write npm init y. That's going to create a package.json here, and we can start adding in our dependencies. And since I'm using a clean TypeScript project, I'm going to need quite a few dependencies, so I get all the types and stuff. So let's jump down here and start adding our stuff. So first I'm going to add my dev dependencies. So this is going to be my types, and I'm going to be using types for Express. I'm going to use types for Node, types for Redis, types for Socket.io. Okay, this is looking good. I need one more, and that's going to be TS Node, and last but not least TypeScript. Okay, so this was a bunch of stuff, but every time we work with TypeScript project, right, we're going to need these two dependencies. Or, well, we don't need TS Node, but TS Node is pretty nice when you're working locally, at least. And yeah, these ones are just because I'm going to be pulling in some packages now where the types are not baked in. So the first dependency I'm going to pull in is going to be Express, and then I'm going to be pulling in Socket.io like this. Alright, after adding that, I believe we are in good shape. Now let's go up here. Whenever we're working with TypeScript, we want to have some sort of script to start our server. I'm just going to name a script here called dev, and I'm just going to say in TS node index TS. Alright. After adding that script, we can go out here, add a new file, and in here we can name a file called index.ts. Okay, that's looking good. Last but not least, what we can do is just to do tsc init here in the console. And you can only do this if you have the TypeScript compiler installed globally on your machine. But if you do, you can just do this. That's going to create a tsconfig file here, just with some basic stuff. That's going to make sure our TypeScript project is getting compiled correctly and throwing the errors in case we make some errors there. Okay, good stuff. Let's just see if everything runs. We can do that by just logging out something here and then running down here yarn dev. That's going to execute TS node index TS, and that's working as we expect. Cool stuff. Now let's jump into this index TS and start creating our Socket.io server here. So just a disclaimer. Jumping back to package.json, you can see that as I installed my added Socket.io here, I do have version 3, and version 3 is pretty recent. So I'm actually gonna downgrade this one because I'm using an older version of Socket.io, which is gonna be 2.3.0 here. Okay, so I'm going to be using this one, but if you want to, you can also dive into version 3. They are pretty similar. I just decided to use this version. Okay, so after adding that and have installed the package, I'm just going to delete nobody folder again and then call yarn to make sure that I do have this version of Socket.io. Okay, after doing that, I can go into index.ts and start creating some stuff in here. Alright, so the first things I want to do is I want to import socket. Oh, let me just check something. I believe I'm actually missing a dependency. No, I'm not. I have Express, so I'm gonna explain why Express in a moment. So first thing I will do is import socket from socket.io here. Then I'm gonna import Express from Express, and I'm gonna import HTTP from HTTP. And HTTP is from the one of the modules that comes with Node, so that one we don't need to worry about. Now I'm gonna set up the very basic structure. First we're gonna launch an Express instance, then we're gonna find a port. I like doing process.env.port. If nothing is passed in as an env variable here, we can default to 4040. This is only really useful if you're deploying to a service, so don't worry about it. Here I'm going to define a variable called server, and I'm just going to, on the HTTP object, I'm going to call create server, and here I'm going to pass in my Express module. Alright, now I can do server.listen, pass in my port, and I can log in here, I can log in here the port that I'm listening on. Okay, if I call yarn dev, I'm getting 4040 here, my server is running. Now I could optimize my workflow a little bit by having this one restart every time I'm saving this index.ts file, but for now I'm just gonna leave it. Okay, cool. Moving on, I am gonna be creating the onConnect callback now. So on the backend, we need to listen on first I need to define this variable IO. So IO is going to be a socket from socket.io. In here I will pass in my server component from the HTTP library, so this one. And I believe if you are working on socket.io version 3, the syntax, all the syntax is a little different if you want to use Express. So just a disclaimer if you are venturing into version 3. Alright. Now after we have done this step, we can now listen on a callback here. So the one I can listen on is the connect event. And in here I can pass in a function or a callback. This is a callback, okay? In here that I will execute once connection has been established. Okay, and the first thing I want to do is I want to grab socket, and then I want to call a few events in here. So hold on, it's not going to be the global socket up here, it's going to be a nested variable here called socket. So I couldn't even just choose another name just to avoid the confusion. It's gonna call it IO socket. Okay. So here I'm gonna define my two events. First one's gonna be the join event. So on join room, I'm gonna be doing something. And the reason why I'm adding this join room, let's just see, something is not right here. Okay, alright, it's better. Okay, the reason why I'm adding this join room is because every time you have a chat application you need some sort of room, so might just create that one right off the bat. And then we are gonna have another one that's gonna be on message. So this is whenever somebody sends a message. Okay, these are our two events that I want to listen to, and that's actually it. So now we just need to define what's inside here. And the first one I'm gonna call on IO socket, I'm gonna use this method called join. And in here I'm just saying, okay, this socket connection join this room. Okay, so actually I want to be able to pass a key in here, and I just pass it directly to join. Okay, so I need to make sure on the client side that I'm sending in the key of the room I want to join. And yeah, that's basically it for this part. I'm gonna add something a little later, but I'm gonna leave it like this. So what do we do on the message callback here? So what I want to do is I want to grab IO socket, and then I want to call access this NSP property, and then call 2 on it. And then I want to grab the message that I'm getting. So the message is here. And on this one, oh, it's not going to be the message itself. The message is going to have a key. And on this, I'm going to call emit. And I'm going to be emitting the message event. And I'm just going to emit the whole message. Okay, so I'm just going to find a type for this. I should probably have done this first, but I'm going to do it now. So in here, I'm going to define a type. Oh, not props. I'll call it type. And each message is going to have some text, right? We're going to have a date. And we're also going to have a key here. If you wanted to do images, you could have an optional image here. That could also be a string. Who knows? Okay, so let's just leave it like this. So yeah, so each message is going to have a key that shows what chat room is this, and then the text. All right. And by doing this .nsp and then do to the room name, I can actually broadcast this message out to everybody in the room, including myself. So to everybody in the room, including myself. So this way I could have a hook on the front end, just listening to changes, or to an emit message, and then just whatever comes back, update the state. Okay. This makes sense for my app, but you can just change it where you're just broadcasting to everybody in the room and not yourself. But for my use case, it makes sense, and I think it can also make sense for you. So this is my implementation. Now, this is more or less what's needed on the backend. I'm going to be adding some extra flair to this though. So up here, I'm going to be adding a client, or a Redis client. And to do that, I actually need to add in Redis. So yarn add Redis. I think it's just Redis. Hold on a second. I need to make sure that I'm getting the right stuff here. So yeah, it's just Redis. If I do yarn add Redis, let's try. And then import Redis from Redis. Now if I type Redis here, I'm getting some typings here, so that's already sorted out. So now I can do Redis dot create client, and in here I need to pass some kind of authentication. Okay, and since I don't want to share my configuration with you guys, I will be copy pasting in the file here and then just importing that to hide the secret. So let's see. Alright, so I dragged in the secret here. It's just a TypeScript file, and then now I can import secret from secret and then just pass it in here. And basically what this file is a default export where I have a host name, a port, which is a number, and then a password. Okay, and I'm using a cloud Redis service, a free one, so you can just go grab that one. I don't remember the name right now, but I'm sure if you just Google Redis free cloud, you will find something. Alright, so after that's done, I like to do something that's specific for this library because it's struggling a little with async await. And that's to define a new variable here called Redis get asynchronous, and that's basically going to be me trying to promisify the get method of the Redis client. And to order to promisify that, I need to grab a promisify method, and I'm pulling this one in from util, which is also part of node. So now I can here call promisify and then just pass in that method that I want to promisify. For me, it's going to be client dot get. Okay, and then I need to remember to call bind here, and then pass in the root object. Okay. With this method, I can make the code down here a little more clean. All right. Cool. So how can we modify this code? Since now we have added data storage using Redis. And the first thing we can do is whenever somebody joins the room, load in the history. Okay. So after I join the room here, I can grab the history by doing Redis get asynchronous and then pass in the key. Say I'm storing all my chat data on these chat room keys. Okay. And now since we made it async await, we can do const message. This is called message data, and then we can pass in await here. And we need to remember to make this callback asynchronous by putting async up here. Okay. So now if we had any data here, we would have that history, and we could emit that history. So I could emit a history event here and then just pass in the message data. It's not going to be socket, it's going to be IO socket. Okay, so yeah, we need to make sure that we are grabbing this history data on the front end, right? Cool. Now, so far we grabbed some message data. Now we need to populate this Redis database, and we need to do that every time a message is sent, because you want to save all the messages, right? Okay. So in here, apart from doing this, where we are passing around the message to everybody, we need to save the message. And I'm gonna make a help function for this. Just call save message. So down here, I'm gonna make a new method, call it save message. And in here, we are just expecting to get a message. Cool. I'm gonna make this one async because I'm gonna need to be doing a get from the Redis database. Okay. So in here I can do some stuff. So the first thing I can do is I can destruct out the key from our message. Alright. And then I can, as the first thing, I can try to see if I have any data there. Because maybe we already have some data, and we will, except for the very first time, and then we need to make sure that we grab it and then add the new data coming in. So add the new data to the existing data. And then we need to use the key again, and we destructured that one out so it's available to us. And now we can do a check, because as I said, it might be the first time that we're trying to save a message. So if there's no data, we are gonna return client set, and for the key we're gonna put an empty array here, stringified. Okay, so this is for the first message in the chat room. If it's not the first message, we know there's some JSON data there, so we can pass it, and then we can since it's just a root array, the iteration structure here, we can push the new message, and then as we did before, we can call client set once again with the key that's provided, but this time we're going to stringify that JSON. So instead of putting a direct string here, we're going to stringify the JSON we just passed here. Okay, so now up here I can call the same message, pass in my message, and I should be good now. Now I have all the logic needed to send messages, retrieve history, make sure I'm in the right room, so not everybody is receiving my message. And we did this in not too many lines of code here. Okay, so now what I want to do in the second part of this video is to actually test that our server is working. Alright, so for testing I could just open an index JS file and a index HTML file and quickly test it out, bring in socket.io via CDN, but I'm actually gonna attach a build tool here, and the reason is if you guys would pull down this project and continue on it, it will be way easier if you actually had a bundler. And my choice for bundling is going to be Parcel because it's so easy to get started with, and it also has some nice built-in functionality for TypeScript. So I'm currently on this website called createapp.dev, and this one can be pretty nice if you want to set up a new project with Parcel. You can add in the stuff you need, and it's just gonna spit out a project here. Now for our case, it's going to be very simple. We're not going to use React or Vue or anything like that. We're just going to use Parcel with TypeScript. So the only thing I want to select here is TypeScript. So as you can see, the package JSON doesn't really change too much, and these files are rather simple. But instead of copy pasting all this stuff, I'm just going to press download project here, and I'm going to copy paste it into VS Code. Alright, back in VS Code, I created a folder called web here, and I'm just gonna copy paste in that bundle that I've unzipped from the website. Let's see if we can drag it in here to the web folder, copy folder. There we go. We have an index HTML, index TS. Alright, cool. Now I'm just gonna seed into this folder, and I'm gonna be adding in a dependency here because I need to use socket.io on the client, otherwise I can connect to socket.io on the backend. Okay, so in here I can do yarn add socket.io client, and I need to actually cancel this one and then go into the package JSON and make sure I'm addressing what version I want. So I could put it in here in my dependency array, but I could also do not this link. I could do yarn add socket.io client and then put in the version number here. So for me, I will use 2.4 because that's the version of this server. Let's have a look here. 2.3 actually, so we can do 2.3.0. Let's see if that should actually be enough. Alright, so finally we have our socket.io client in here, and that means we can get started with our index.ts file here. So let's just close these up and remove this one. Alright, let's just focus on this part. So this part is going to be pretty simple for our test, but yeah, should be good. So first things first, we want to import our socket.io client here, and I'm just going to do import everything as socket from socket.io client. And now I can first do a connection, and then for that I can do socket.connect. Seems like I'm not getting any autocomplete here, so perhaps I need a library. Let's see. Yeah, it's saying maybe try to install this one. Let's just try it and add it as a dev dependency. see here, see sockets, connect. Yeah, we have a connect now, great. Got some autocomplete to make sure we're doing everything right. So localhost 4040, that's where our server is. Now on the front end, we don't need to wait for a specific callback. We can just immediately do IO, emit, and for me, I want to, first of all, I want to join the room, so I'm chatting with the right people. And here I can pass in my key. My key is just gonna be something I make up. So it's just gonna be 1. So here I'm gonna pass in 1. Alright. And now I can set up my listeners here. So the first one is gonna be message 1. And here I am just gonna log that message out. So let's log it out like this. And this is gonna be a string. Actually, it won't be a string. It's gonna be have a little different structure. So here I could actually reuse the type from the backend, but I'm just gonna type it out. So we're gonna have date. We're gonna have some text. We're gonna have a key and perhaps an image. Who knows? Alright, that looks a little bit inlined here, but that's good enough for now. So now I'm gonna open up the panel here, go in here, and I'm gonna add a button. And it's just gonna say send message. Now I can grab that button. Just close this panel again. And I can add an event listener here. So I'm just gonna add the event listener here on click. And whenever something is clicked, I'm gonna on IO emit a message. And the message I'm sending is just gonna be a test message. So text, test. I'm gonna have the date, so it's gonna be now, the date of now. And the key is going to be my key. Okay. Now, how do we actually get our web server up and running? So if you go to package.json on web, we can see that code we copy pasted in here has a start that calls parcel. So parcel is our bundler, and we're running parcel and pointing an index HTML file. We can get our web server up and running. So let's do yarn start. And I need to make sure I have the right Chrome open. So localhost 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Okay, so right now we're getting connection refused. So we are not getting any connection done, but that's because we didn't actually set our socket.io server up here. You can see we're in the web folder right now. I'm gonna navigate back one. And then I am gonna call yarn start. Oh, it's gonna be yarn dev. Actually, I'll call yarn dev. So this might crash since we didn't actually test any of it, but it seems like we got 4040 here and no errors. So let's jump back to Chrome. Let's try to refresh here. It does look like it's erroring out, so it seems like we have a connection. And then now if I call send message here, not too much is happening. Yeah, let's see. Okay guys, I stopped the recording for a sec because I couldn't understand what was going on, but basically my index HTML here, I had my script tag placed here, so the button wasn't really rendered. I should always have the script tag at the bottom. So now my query section actually works in here. So now if I go to Chrome again, you can see whenever I press send message here, I'm receiving this payload. And the reason why I'm receiving it is because remember on the backend I'm sending this to everybody and myself, so I'm getting this message And if I was in React world, I would just be like, whenever the message changes, update the UI. And if I open this other tab here, so I open another tab here, you can see I'm also getting the messages in here. So it's not only me getting it, but also this other browser. So the messages are going through, and I could have spent some time on rendering stuff out here into my view. But yeah, I think I'm gonna stop it here for now, since it's working, and probably you wouldn't create an app like this in vanilla.js, but of course it is definitely an option. Alright guys, I'm gonna put this project on GitHub. If you have any questions, leave it down below, and if you liked it, give it a like, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.